Hi there, my name is Kay Moon and I am a Twin Soul Channel and Western astrologer. And this is a video about the new moon in Cancer occurring on July 9th, 2021 at 9:16 p.m. If you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States, please check a time zone converter for your local time. This new moon is occurring at the 18th degree of Cancer here. And it is an interesting new moon because it's particularly marked by its opposition to Pluto, which is retrograde at this time. When we have moon opposite Plutonian energy, things that have to do with Pluto tend to come to the surface. Pluto has the ability to illuminate under this new moon our fears and our shadows and the places where we struggle with losses of control or feeling perhaps like those fears and shadow energy will potentially take us to places where we dance with our dark side. What's interesting also about this new moon is that it's amplified, that energy is amplified because of the square here to Eris here in Aries and the creation goddess here in Libra. All in all, this creates grand cross energy, and this facilitates a lot of tension in the world around us and within us as this new moon opens up our emotions to potentially some of the more challenging emotions in the human experience. Eris deals specifically with the places where we feel disenfranchised, not included, overlooked. And here we are with creation goddess ready to take action on that, and the new moon starting a new cycle, and Pluto highlighting all of our fears. I mentioned this in a few other videos that Pluto is playing a particularly starring role in this summer's lunations, but this is one of those lunations where it's going to make a lot of sense to pay attention to the feelings and the sensations and the emotions that come up, because many of them will be unsavory, they will be testing, and we will be tempted to act on these things, whether we want to or not. Compulsive or impulsive behavior is certain a big piece of this lunation, especially because we have Mars conjunct Venus and fire sign Leo as well. The fire signs tend to be about taking action. And when Mars is sitting with Venus, passion gets stirred up and we feel attracted to, drawn to taking action to deal with our emotions. However, under the light of this new moon, what's being revealed to us are the pieces of our shadow and some of our fears and those energies that we struggle to deal with, so that we can learn how to dance with them in a new way. That would be the creation goddess's energy here and the new moon's energy, giving us an opportunity to look at our shadow, to face our shadow, to integrate our shadow, and understand how what we're experiencing and seeing out in the world is a direct reflection of some of the way we treat ourselves, but also a direct reflection of things like ways we're meant to make a difference in the world, as opposed to succumbing to or participating in the world's darkness, ways in which we're meant to pay more attention and more careful attention to the things that other people may be utilizing this new moon energy to facilitate manipulation or control games, and figure out maybe where we need to take a bigger stand for ourselves in our lives, gain more control. I'll give you an example from my own life walking toward this new moon. I have a friend who's dealing with a laundromat who lost a $200 pair of jeans. They were designer jeans. She paid good money for them, and they have lost them completely. Now, this friend of mine happens to be a very good writer, and she can see that the company is not really responsive to reviews. She's, dealt with the company she's been in. She's talked to them. She's tried to get them to do the right thing. She's seen online that this is not the first time they've lost something expensive for a customer, but she has devised a plan to manipulate them into providing full reimbursement, which their policy says they do not. However, in discussing this with her and looking at her chart, kind of understanding the season she's in her world, she's in the midst of a season where one of the things she's meant to be doing at this time is paying closer attention to the financial flow in her life, paying attention to the money that's coming, the money that's going, being more mindful about spending. And so here she is in this circumstance with a company that's excessively mindful about their spending, what money they will reimburse to people, to the degree to which she's already aware they're not going to give her the full amount back. However, she, like I said, she's developed this plan to get them to do so. Under the light of this new moon, when we spoke about it, she was saying, I don't really want to be that kind of person that has to do that. I don't want to play like that. I know I can do those kinds of things, but I can think like that. I can develop those plans, but that's not how I want to walk in this world. And so when we had the opportunity to look at her chart, and saw, well, maybe what's actually happening is you're supposed to be learning something from this company around, not being, manipulated, persuaded, or, kind of bat- battled into a corner around where and how you'll spend your money. Maybe they're a reflection for you of ways in which you need to take better control of some of your finances on the whole, because they certainly have what goes and what comes under lock and key in their business. Maybe this is a reflection for you. And after explaining this to her, she was like, okay, I get it. They are my teachers in this circumstance. I'm not necessarily meant to manipulate them into giving me full reimbursement for those genes, but I am meant to pay better attention to the policies of the people that I deal with, the value that I place on the things that I share with the world. I'm meant to, take better care of what money I spend, what money goes and what money comes, those kinds of things. And so keep this in mind, because some of what you'll be experiencing with this new moon this week, and heading into next week as well, is people really looking to strong arm at this time. You, even yourself, looking to strong arm and or manipulate to get what you want in circumstances. However, that would be a way to utilize this energy that would miss the point of embracing and integrating the lessons of the shadow. And instead, it would just allow the shadow and the ego to run roughshod over life, over your life and your life's choices. Not to say that there's not a time and a place to pull every string to get what you need. There may be that, certainly. Eris is an energy where she will leave no stone unturned to make sure that she is heard. But the question that we all dance with when these kinds of energies show up is, well, who do I want to be? And with the new moon in Cancer, emotions are running high. Tensions with this Grand Cross energy are also running high, and we're given a choice. Many of you know I don't read in terms of destiny, I read in terms of free will, and Grand Crosses give us a lot of choice. Who do we want to be in the face of tension? And this particular Grand Cross is about who we want to be in the face of our fears, in the face of our shadows, and in the face of not potentially getting our way. Or who do we want to be in the face of people who would rather use their ego and will to run roughshod over us? That's the question. So during this week and next week, be looking out for these opportunities where life will show a mirror to you with regard to your own shadow and your own fears and the things which you would rather be going a different way. Who are you in the face of that? This particular moon is also making a harmonious aspect to Nessus and Neptune here in the sign of Pisces. And this lends itself to an added energy. Nessus and Neptune there, an added energy of feeling, on the one hand, we can feel a bit swallowed up by our emotions this week, carried on a wave of emotion during this new moon. We've got both sun and moon occupying the constellation of Cancer. Neptune in harmonious aspect can operate a bit like Jupiter because it can be a bit more like an expander, or we can feel like we're dancing in a hall of mirrors, not really knowing what image or reality is the true reality and circumstances at this time. Further, Nessus causes that looping. It's an OCD energy. It's an energy of feeling really obsessive and quite compulsive. And in Pisces, water energy, Cancer, water energy, this facilitates a real capacity to get carried away on our emotions during this particular 2-week lunation. And so what I'd like to call your attention to are the ways that you respond to strong or intense emotion in your world. Are you the kind of person who likes to get carried away on emotion, a wave of emotion, whether it be an emotion of the shadow or an emotion of the light? Do you like emotional roller coasters? Well, this week will give you one. And if you're the kind of person who really struggles to feel or sense their emotions and they seem to come out of nowhere at this time, this is an opportunity to make peace with the fact that you are an emotional being and that our emotions are beautiful barometers of where we are at in our own journey and walk through life, where we're at with our personal growth and development. In all ways and for everyone, as emotions surface this week, we're given the opportunity to really see where we're at in the world of our growth and development. And so you get the choice to decide how you're going to deal with that. You will see all manner of how the people around you will be dealing with it. But just expect that this would be a couple of weeks where it would be important to tread lightly with the beings around you. Many people will be in very tender places. And not only will they be very tender, you will also find that some people will be a bit of a matchbox, kind of ready to explode. And it will all be reactionary. Most of it because of the positioning here of Neptune and Pluto and Eris, especially with Pluto opposite this new moon being in Cancer. Most of it won't be about reality. Most of it will be our responses to distortions in perception, our fears, our things that make us anxious, places where we feel powerless, stories we've made up around our own invisibility or our own irrelevance or insignificance. This is the type of new moon that really lends itself to leaning into those kinds of stories of disempowerment, which are not true. You were not born as a disempowered being. In particular, if you're listening to this on, the internet, you found me. You're probably not under lock and chain technically in your life. There are those who live that way, but my guess is you are not one of them if you've got access to this content. So try to remember that as you encounter the energies of this week. This new moon also, because it sits at the 18th degree, is not only trining Neptune and Nessus, but it's all and squaring Eris. 18 is right in between here, 12 and 24. It's having a conversation with Chiron. And so, just to kind of turn up the volume on this energy even more, Chiron's the Chironic energy here in fire sign Aries is going to turn up the volume on the hum of those stories we have been telling ourselves, What I like about this is Mercury is direct, and Mercury, although squaring Neptune, is adding to a lot of the distortion energy that I've been talking about. The chironic piece is going to allow some of the stories to become conscious so that we're not necessarily operating, as a puppet on strings to our pain and our wounds. Instead, we're going to get the opportunity to see the machinations of our own mind quite a bit better in these next 2 weeks, especially after the new moon. We'll be able to see, wow, I really, I really have a story about how everyone else gets to have what they want, but I don't. Or I really have a story around, I'm not good enough to have X, Y, or Z in love or in relationships. Or I recognize that the common denominator in circumstance A, B, and C is me. What is it that I'm bringing to the table that's creating this to be my repeatedly lived reality? We are going to get the opportunity to see some of these things with our conscious mind, many for the first time. Some of it may be because there is a circumstance of acting out that really blows up, and then we get the mirror. We're faced like, oh, I see it now. I really see who I am. I see my projections for what they are. But some of us, it'll happen simply because, the placement of Chiron and the location of Neptune to this particular new moon and Pluto acting on the new moon as well are just going to make the repetitiveness of certain experiences or fears in our life loud enough, whereby we'll get the opportunity to no longer ignore them, and we'll get the opportunity to finally make change by integrating and bringing those pieces of our shadow home. If you're already finding resonance with this material, I invite you to book a personal reading with me if you'd like to have a look at the way this energy is playing out in your own chart and life. You can find those over at kmoonastro.com. And if you're new to the channel and this is resonating for you, I invite you to hit that subscribe button. I'm here every new and full moon to share what these energies look like and what the opportunities for those who walk the path of light and the path of love are. Okay, so let's go ahead and pause here. We're going to see if YouTube will show a brief commercial. And should it decide to do that, if you choose to watch it, it helps me build out the content on this channel. I always appreciate when you watch those commercials. Thank you so much. Awesome. Welcome back. Thank you. Let's have a look at some of the other energies that are falling under the light of this new moon in Cancer. We've just completed the eclipse season, and so many of us are integrating a lot of the changes that life has brought to us during the eclipse season. And at this point in time, some of the other main energies, let me just pull up my annotation tool again, that we have to look forward to, as I mentioned, is this Mars conjunct Venus in the sign of Leo. Mars conjunct Venus tends to be a very passionate, a very sexy, a very desire filled energy. And inside the sign of Leo, this is a great and beautiful energy for creativity, creative works. Many of you who work in the creative arts are going to find a lot of inspiration at this time. It's a great way to utilize some of this more challenging energy from the new moon, because this energy is giving us the opportunity to channel, thankfully, channel some of the challenging energy here. We have a creative outlet for it when Mars and Venus come together. Mars being the mundane masculine principle, Venus the mundane feminine principle. These two, when they come together, masculine and feminine, create a third energy, one that can birth and create something very different, something very new. So all of my, writers and performing artists and visual artists, you're going to find, and entertaining artists, you're going to find that this is a beautiful period of time to unplug, specifically from places and people that kind of trigger you, the world at large, you may find it to be a bit noisy and challenging at this time anyway. This is a great time to unplug a bit and dive into your creative work. Especially with the new moon in Cancer, you're going to find that as you channel this energy or work with the peak emotions of this energy, you're going to find that things are able to come out of you. You are able to access places in your art that you weren't previously able to access. Further, those of you who are very entrepreneurial are also going to get a boost from this energy. Those of you who work in the freelance world or the other creative practices are going to find that new ideas will come to you quite a bit with this energy, new ways of thinking about how to get business done, how to attract clients, how to build new revenue streams. All of that is something that you can expect with this Mars conjunct Venus in Leo, the very creative, passionate sign of Leo. But what's interesting is because we also have Uranus making a direct square. And so this brings a bit of the element of surprise to the table, a bit of the divine insight, some ways in which you may not have had access to circumstances that have felt particularly stuck. Because this conjunction is happening conjunct Uranus, you're going to get a bit of a boost of divine insight that's going to, aha, this is how I can reconfigure this chessboard so that it works for my pieces, as opposed to trying to rearrange the way the pieces work. You're going to start to figure out how to rearrange the board. For many, though, I am going to just reiterate and echo, this is going to invite you to confront certain of your fears at the time of this new moon. In order to reconfigure things, it is going to invite you to play a different way, play a new game. I frequently say to people, in order to get something that you've never had, you've got to be willing to do some things you've never done, say some things you've never said, make new boundaries that you've never had before, speak up in ways that you've never spoken up, make requests that you've never been willing to make before. Again, the caution with this is to put yourself out there to create it rather than utilize the Plutonian energy to manipulate your way into getting it. Because unfortunately, that is one of Pluto's signatures, is manipulation, preying upon the fears of other people or letting your fears prey upon you to a degree that you leverage maneuvers and tactics that take others' power away from them instead of allowing them the free will to participate in a mutually beneficial outcome. So just keep that in mind, that energy is also here, and be on the lookout for it. For those of you who have dealings with others in this week, you may find that you encounter ulterior motives from people, but you are now forewarned so that you can be forearmed in looking for the win-win solution instead of playing win-lose, which is typically a game we play when fear is a piece of the equation. All right, so we talked about that piece. I did speak about Mercury squiring Neptune. I don't like this. You guys know I'm not a fan of the Mercury-Neptune situations. Even though Mercury is now direct, Neptune is retrograde, and the squaring energy is what can provide a lot of complication, a lot of confusion, a lot of distortion in people's thinking. It can also create a lot of misinterpretation about what's being said to us at this time. And I highlight this aspect of it because even though sometimes Mercury Neptune can lean into straight up lies, more often what happens is misinterpretations of half complete pictures. And so without the full picture, it's very easy to misinterpret other people's intentions. And without the full picture, it's also very easy to mistake what you're seeing to be a problem when perhaps it's not. So, because of this, this is a really good time where if you're in the middle of negotiations on anything significant in your world or dealing with contracts, Mercury can kind of portend and Gemini can portend to some of those things. And we have creation goddess up here in Libra, which can also deal with contracts. Certain things can be a bit muddled at this time, but if you're willing to have um, a, re- a revisit conversation and set the stage for that up front. So let's just say, for example, this is the week where very important decisions need to get made in your life. My recommendation would be to have the conversation that you're able to have at this time. And rather than trying to get to final conclusion with the conversation, say to the other party, you know, I love the conversation we're having at this time, but I'd also, I want to keep the dialogue open. I want to keep the conversation going. My sense is that you and I, after we've had a time to think about this or, sift through the documents, or we've gone back to our partners on the circumstance, or we've had a chance to sleep on it, whatever's appropriate for your situation, you and I both may have some additional ideas. And I'd love to set a time to revisit this in a couple of weeks and just, casually put it on the calendar. They don't need to know that you are deep down an astrological rabbit hole on these things. Um, and just, put it on the calendar to revisit it. Because in a couple of weeks, we will have Mercury out here in the sign of Cancer, full and away from Neptune. The square from Neptune and Mercury will be able to give more of its intuitive insight in the sign of Cancer, as opposed to some of the cloudiness that it's getting with Gemini, being in Gemini square Neptune and Pisces. So if you're able to do so, fabulous. If not, as my astrology teacher Nadia Shah says, it's really important to just trust your life, that if things are happening at this time, that there's a reason for this and that a lesson will be understood in the fullness of time. All right, let's get on to the next energy here. We have, clear that up. There is something to be said here with Juno conjunct the South Node via retrograde and in harmony with this Venus Mars conjunction. This is a period of time where it's quite possible that someone who I wouldn't say was a past partner, although it could be, but someone maybe who reminds you of a past partner or a past connection could surface in your life at this time for a tryst, an interlude, some level of, examination, so that you could just see what was it about that circumstance or that period of time or myself or this connection. What was it about it that fascinated me, that drew me to it? There's also an energy here with Saturn making connection with Juno as well via a trine, where for some of you, this is going to be the resurfacing of an old partnership that is going to restart again. That partner will pop out of the past because the South Node can act a bit like a portal when certain energies, certain planetary energies cross over it by retrograde. And here we have Juno retrograde over the South Node. And so this would be a partner from the past and not necessarily a lover, but Juno represents partnership energy. Partnership energy showing up for revisitation in the now. This would have been someone based on this configuration that you would have been committed to in some way, or someone that, maybe you guys danced with commitment, but it never really got off the ground. Here's the resurfacing of this opportunity so that you guys can figure out, what do we want to do with this energy? What's interesting about it, under the light of this new moon in Cancer, again, Pluto talking to this new moon, Uranus square it, or not square it, but Uranus sextile it, Chiron square it, wounds are up, and you may be in for a little bit of erratic behavior from people. as they dance with their own wounding, as they dance with their own fears. And Neptune and the Mercury pieces could really make understanding other people's motivations difficult at this time. It can make understanding your own motivations challenging at this time. So, what there is to do with this energy is to just be patient, let it play out, let this unfold. It's a bit like dealing with feral cats or hurt wild animals. It's going to be important not to make any sudden movements at this time. While people sort themselves out, while people figure out what's going on with them and work toward understanding, why am I behaving the way that I'm behaving? Under the light of this new moon, it's very easy for one person's triggers and then their responses to those triggers, their automatic knee-jerk responses to like shutting down or closing off or acting out, whatever it is, to get certain needs met. One person's triggers can then set off the other person's triggers. And then they can go into their own pattern of, mentally catastrophizing, withdrawing, or acting out in return. And then a downward spiral could get very easily created, which is why the most important message I can give to you with this new moon in Cancer is to give yourself the opportunity to pay attention to your motivations, pay attention to what your personal fears are, pay attention to what is calling or controlling you at this time. What are the patterns here? What are the emotional patterns here? So that you can start the process of unwinding, being controlled by those things anymore, and instead get into higher frequency, upward spiral interactions in your relationships. Okay. So back to this circumstance with people popping in from the past. Just know that there's a lot of hesitation and tentative energy here with Saturn opposing Mars, Venus, and Juno retrograde. What these people may have shown up for, and with the Neptune squaring Mercury, may not be what you think they have shown up for. So, for example, this could be the kind of circumstance where someone is taking a temperature test to see if it's right to reconcile, but they may not necessarily have been saying that. And so it would be very easy if what you're looking at is someone who's testing the waters but not offering a complete apology. It'd be very easy for this Eris energy to show up and go, off with their heads, I'm out of here, block, block, delete. That kind of thing could go on where it's like they just weren't ready yet. The energy is going to continue to shift and new things are going to unfold. Another way this could play out is you may find that, maybe you have a partner, a steady partner, and one of their exes shows up in this energy. And they're not being completely clear about why they've shown up. And it looks one way on the outside, but what's really happening is maybe one of their parents is on a deathbed and they have, a particular connection to your partner where that partner helped them realize certain things about their parent. And now they're making peace with that relationship and finally making peace with your partner and the ending of that relationship. All I'm saying is that things on the surface for a little while aren't going to, what they appear to be on the surface may not actually be real. And there's so much fear energy happening with this full moon or new moon that it's just going to be very important to be patient, to, as much as you're able to, keep lines of communication open, be as transparent with people as possible. Because I've noticed when we are transparent with people, it dials down a lot of their fears. Be as real and as honest as possible with people. And just know that while people are struggling in this energy, you have kind of a secret piece of information here that lets you know things are going to settle down soon. I'm going to get more information soon, but all I really need to do at this time is just pay attention to what's happening around me and in particular within me so that I'm not acting off of emotions, but instead acting in accordance with my true intentions. All right. Okay. Yeah. Let's just see if there's anything else that seems really important. Jupiter square Uranus. Where is that? Nope. That's Jupiter square Lilith. Okay, here we go. All right. And so a final energy here is Jupiter speaking with Lilith. And this just kind of echoes some of the things I've already been saying. Lilith really enjoys having things her way. She embodies both a sense of power, but also in the shadows, she engenders a sense of rejection. And when speaking in harsh aspect to Jupiter in the way that she is, this is a period of time where some of those sensations of rejection, but also a sense of, oh no, you will not do this to me. That sense of personal self entitlement can come to the surface and cause us to shoot ourselves in the foot when it comes to some of our ambitions and our goals and some of our desired outcomes. This is a transit under which ego can really get in the way and manipulate us to go for comfort and certainty instead of expanding our capacity to hang out just for a little while longer in the unknown, because we are powerful enough to be able to do that and allow things to unfold and see what happens, paying attention to the details as we go. So just keep that in mind. This is, if you're thinking of initiating breakups, dissolution of business partnerships, job quittings, kind of rage quitting on your lease if something's wrong in your apartment, or these kinds of things, compulsive emotional behavior at this time. In the fullness of time, we will come to see that it actually didn't really serve us. So if you're able to just clock the emotions, make note of them, see what there is to learn from them without reacting or needing to punish in order to feel like you're back into some kind of control in your life, you'll find that you're much better off after this new moon as we move into the next series of lunations. So, like I said, if any of this is resonating for you and you feel like, okay, I'm in a rock and a hard place in my business and my relationships and, certain places in my life, and I need to figure out what my choices are, or I know what the choices are, but I'm really struggling with making certain ones of them because of, these particular caveats or strings that are attached to me in life. This is a great time to get a reading. You can find me over at kmoonastro.com. And if you're enjoying this content and you're new here, please subscribe. And if you're already here, definitely hit that like button. It certainly helps. I appreciate you watching and sharing, liking, and subscribing. And I look forward to seeing you in the next lunation. Take great care and bye for now.